Welcome to the Big O Show on the Overreaction Sports Network, powered by Believe.
Still the same damn kid from Oklahoma, same old dreams hanging off my shoulders, just wishing and waiting on a shooting star for all to see.
And now your host, straight out of Oklahoma, former Buffalo Bill, Jerry Ostrowski.
I'm still the same damn kid from Oklahoma.
Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in, Bills Mafia. I am the Big O, Jerry Ostrowski. Welcome to the Big O Show on the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network. We are powered by Believe. And as always, Wednesday nights, 8 Eastern, 7 Central, right here on the Overreaction Buffalo YouTube channel. Then tomorrow you can check you can check it out on all major podcasting platforms. Tomorrow, if you want to check it on the way to work, or you want to roll in, hanging out around the house, want to give it a listen, and we appreciate it as always. Wednesday, July 2nd. Got a few weeks before camp starts. Obviously, this is the doldrums of summer as we head towards training camp. As always, we'll cover a couple things going on in Buffalo. Then again, I don't do this very often, but today's a Q&A type of show. If you have questions, put them up over in the comments. Give me your questions and we'll answer them. So if you got Buffalo Bills related stuff, heck, maybe you got something you want to know about me, go ahead and put those on over in the comments section. See that we got lots in the comments already. Joey Hatch, Richard Rush, our very own Joseph Miller III. We appreciate you guys. Scott Blakely, thanks for joining the show. Just a few things going on in Buffalo today. One kind of major, as you might understand, deals with our first round pick, Maxwell Hairston. And Hairston, of course, the first round pick from Kentucky. In 2021, while at the University of Kentucky, he was accused in a lawsuit or I should say a Title IX suit of sexually assaulting a woman, a fellow student on the campus of the University of Kentucky. Those charges were, I wouldn't say dropped, but nothing was found that they felt that Maxwell Hairston was guilty and that they needed to proceed any further. So we now fast forward to 2025, and today that person filed a civil suit against Maxwell Hairston for what she says is the harm that he did to her while at the University of Kentucky. That student left the University of Kentucky after that incident, and then went on to another university. But here's the thing that's interesting about this whole deal, and I will say this: I'm going to give you Brandon Beane's comment. And I first of all, I'm not judge and jury. I'm not here to give you a reason why I think this is happening. I'm not here to tell you whether she is right or wrong. I'm not here to tell you if I think he did it or he didn't do it. I'm just giving you the facts because it is pertinent to the Buffalo Bills, and that's what this show is about. We talk about the Buffalo Bills and all things that go on at One Bills Drive, and of course, that show hosted by me, a former Buffalo Bill. This is what Brandon Beane had to say about Hairston and picking Hairston and all that. He said, yeah, he's an impeccable kid, and we've done a lot of research. I believe that. That is what Bills GM Brandon Beane said after selecting Hairston in April. I think all teams were aware of the Title IX thing. That was fully investigated by the school. There's everything out. He even volunteered to do a polygraph and had notes. It was one of those where there was zero information saying that this actually happened to what the accusation was. Just like anything in this world, you can't just take someone's account and think that's the truth. But yes, we fully investigated that. I do believe that. I believe that fully. And Bills GM Brandon Beane went on to say, after Hairston was drafted, that the team fully investigated the situation. He also explained that if there was any merit to the claim, Hairston wouldn't have been invited to the scouting combine or the draft. So, that being said, I do believe Brandon Beane in the fact that the Buffalo Bills did their due diligence. Remember, it was not too long ago that they had the situation with Ariza, the punter from San Diego State. And obviously, that went the way it went. So you would think that this franchise would not get burned twice. Now, Ariza has since been cleared of all charges and all accusations. So when you look at this situation, take it for what it's worth. I fully believe that the Buffalo Bills did do their due diligence. You can only investigate and see what's there. We'll see what happens in this case. We don't know. Does he make it go away? Does he fight it? Does it have a strain and implications on Maxwell Hairston's rookie season 2025 in Buffalo? We will see. But here's the interesting part of this situation. We already know that the NFL is some cases they go ahead and give suspensions, in some cases they don't. The NFL pretty much picks and chooses what they want to talk about or what they want to go ahead and suspend. We all know the situation in Kansas City. That player, nothing's going to happen. And Scott Blakely asked this, can the NFL impose suspension? Well, Scott, it just so happens they can. In 2023, the NFL changed the league policy on player misconduct that predated a player's entry into the league. So, in this case with Maxwell Hairston, and he was accused in a lawsuit of sexually assaulting a woman in 2021, the new rules put into place by the league in 2023 can allow them, if they feel necessary and they deem fit, to suspend Maxwell Hairston for as long as they want. Now, I don't know the exact number under the CBA, but I do know this. One of the things that the Players Association totally dropped the ball on was giving Roger Goodell full power. So Goodell can pretty much do what he wants. So if this thing drags out, and I don't know what an admission of what the NFL sees as an admission of guilt, considering that if there's a settlement or something in this case and it's reported, I don't know what Roger Goodell's going to do. But as I stated, in 2023, the league has changed the policy on player misconduct, and they can suspend players that did things before they entered the league. So we'll stay monitoring that situation. That, of course, drops today. And if something was to happen, you'd have two of the biggest free agents we sign. And I know they're not huge names, but they are very vital pieces to the Buffalo Bills and what they want to do this season. And possibly now your first-round pick being possibly suspended as well if Roger Goodell decides, there's new information and we need to do this. Andy says this, I don't believe the league would suspend Maxwell since it was investigated already. If the NFL investigates now and finds something, they probably will. Kind of what we were saying. I agree with that. NFL probably, like I said, and what Brandon Beane had to say earlier, if he was investigated by, I'm sure he was investigated by the NFL. They didn't find anything. He was invited to the combine. He was invited to the draft, and he was a very integral part of the draft. I mean, we talked about his story all the time. the fact that he was very vocal and forthcoming with the other guys picked in front of him, congratulated all of them. And, you'd have to think that the NFL already did their due diligence. But again, the wild card always is and always will be Roger Goodell. And we have absolutely no clue what that gentleman would and would not do. So we'll keep monitoring that situation. Something else that happened today at One Bills Drive, it was announced, and this is something that was kind of behind the scenes and not highly reported. You may have saw it, you may not have, but Seth Walter, he reports that the Bills are hiring Cole Jacobson as a football research assistant per sources. Jacobson and his team were finalists in this year's Big Data Bowl for their project titled Safety and Trophy. Safeties as in the guys that play behind cornerbacks and linebackers. And this gentleman's a interesting dude. Cole Jacobson has had various research positions. He's a University of Pennsylvania grad. Okay. On his LinkedIn profile, he has ring chasing with the Buffalo Bills, prior experience working for the NFL, Major League Baseball, UCLA football, championship analytics, and in high school coaching. So, what does this gentleman bring to the table for the Bills? It's just another sign of something we've always felt in Buffalo, which was McDermott and that crew does put a large emphasis upon analytics. They are a very analytically driven coaching staff. Jacobson is an analytics expert. So you'd have to think this is a guy that's going to do a ton of work on the analytics side, putting in the project he did last year, and his group won that prize or won that award on the defensive side of the ball. You can see this analytics side maybe really driving the defensive part of this football team. Again, a side of the ball that was, all resources pretty much were given and geared toward the defense. This is another piece that's probably going to be a heavy defensive sided piece, although he can also help the offensive side of the ball as well. But again, very highly educated gentleman, University of Pennsylvania degree, Bachelor of Arts in Mathematics, summa cum laude 3.80, 4-point unweighted GPA. This is a guy that understands numbers. He understands math. So the Buffalo Bills announced today Cole Jacobson coming on as a person to drive the analytics side of that football team. So once again, we'll be interested to see. Now, as I've said a million times, I think analytics are nice. A lot of people use analytics to win arguments. A lot of people, if you question things and they have analytics, they will scream louder and louder because this is what the numbers say. I am not one of those people. I think analytics can tell somewhat of the story, but you still got to have one of these, and you still got to have one of these, and you still got to have a gut. You still got to be able to – there's still a human side of the game that plays a very big role, a very vital part. So analytics can help, yes. But when it comes down to it, you need to have those other human aspects as well to help you make decisions and help you win football games. So again, this is the Big O Show on the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network. We are powered by Believe. This is a question and answer show. If you have questions, please put them in the comment section. I will answer those questions, whether they be about the Buffalo Bills, whether they be about myself. I had a great 3 days. Did some high-level Division I offensive line training with about 5 or 6 guys. Had a really good 3 days. Worked with some very, very good football players. Always fun to be able to do that. Connor has our first question of the show. Connor says this: did you ever play against John Randall? If so, what was that like, and what made him such a good player? My first start ever in Buffalo, after being brought up off the practice squad in 1990, I want to say 93, 94. I think think 93. First game was against the Dolphins the week before. First start was against John Randall and the Minnesota Vikings. So yes, I did play against John Randall. Lots of things, lots of things made him such a good player. Strength, quickness, knowledge of the game, and competitiveness. All those things wrapped into one. That's why he wears a gold jacket. That's why he's in the Hall of Fame. Very, very good football player. Guy that made it tough on you. We gave him a lot of respect. We slid all of our protections to him. Wherever he was is where we went. And we kind of had that theory back in the day that you took the best player away and then went about your business with everybody else. So, yeah, Randall was extremely fast, extremely strong, very, very smart, understood the game, was a gap-type player, could shoot gaps, but he could hold his ground if he needed to. And his competitive level, his competition level was through the roof and competed at a very, very high level. So, yeah, John Randall, one of the toughest players I probably ever had to block while I was in the NFL. So, again, if you have questions, you can go ahead and answer them. Our very own John Fina of the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network asked me this. Talk to me, Jerry O. You ever score a touchdown? Yes, one. I scored one touchdown. That was in the at the time San Diego game at home in Buffalo. Very, very non-dramatic type touchdown, playing center. Rubbed off of a defensive line block up to the linebacker, got into the linebacker's face, heard the ooh, because any offensive lineman will tell you, John included, everything's going on behind you. But when you hear the crowd make the oohs and ahs, usually that means something good or bad is happening. Heard the oohs, kind of turned over my shoulder, and there was a football laying on the ground in the end zone, and I just happened to fall on it. And, yes, that was a touchdown. My only touchdown at any level of football, whether it be middle school, high school, and or the pros. So that was a highlight of my career. Scott Blakely asked this. If you didn't play guard, what position would you play? Well, Scott, if you know a little bit about me, I think I played all of them. I played guard, I played center, I played right tackle, played both guards. So I played all of them except for the left tackle position, which was, of course, held admirably and well by our friend John Fina. It was one of those things where, all positions have things that are fun. All positions have things that you don't like. Guard was probably your most protected. So if I didn't play guard, I probably really believe my best position was right tackle. While I wasn't a right tackle or prototypical tackle because of my height being 6'4", everything else was right tackle like, and really had a good time playing there. I enjoyed playing right tackle. Enjoyed, pass blocking a lot of players other than Trace Armstrong from the Miami Dolphins. He was always a pain in the arse to play against. Really, really good football player. I would say probably right tackle. So that would be the position. Got some questions online, and no, it's not what my favorite Backstreet Boy is. Don't know who those cats are. I know who they are, but I have no idea who it because not a fan. But if I don't know. No idea. Because that was actually a question I was asked. But anyway, what camp battles, this was asked to me online, what camp battles are you most looking forward to? Camp battles this season. I think the biggest question is the battle I'm most looking forward to and seeing how this thing falls into place and happens isn't even going to be during camp. I guess it would be a little bit, but it's really what happens at the defensive line position when Larry Ogunjobi and Michael Hoyt are activated and they come back to play week 8. Because when they come into play, 2 other guys are going to have to sit. Now, granted, we all know that a 53-man roster, there's inactive lists and all that. You can keep some guys on the squad that you don't activate, but there's probably going to be somebody that moves on. And in what level of moving on is that? Is it one of those deals where you move on because you mysteriously stub your toe in the shower and you get put on the IR? Or does this become a deal where they just feel like the guy that they have on the roster isn't good enough and they move him? And I think the 2 guys in question are these 2. First one being, as far as defensive tackles go, when you look at the depth and how they've done things, I think that Dwayne Carter, the 3rd-round pick from Duke last year, who was brought in as kind of a 3 technique, is going to have to play more nose this year than 3 technique. And with that happening, you're going to have to go ahead and, put him in a spot he's not super comfortable with probably. And how does he perform? He's going to have a 6-week trial period, a 6-week tryout. And do they feel that he's good enough to keep on the roster and move somebody else down? You have a guy like Dwayne, the big kid from Walker, the kid from Kentucky, who does have the back issues, and you can move him to the IR to keep him around. You just say all of a sudden, hey, that back flared up. We move him down. Or you move Carter. Do you put him on the IR? Or do you just remove him from the roster? So there's that aspect inside. Then you got Michael Hoyt, who's going to be more of a defensive end, outside linebacker in big sets when the Bills want to get into a 4-3 look. It'd be nice to have him week 1 against Baltimore, because that's the one team we know we need him in that position. But where does Hoyt fall into place, and who at the defensive end spot gets moved? Now, I think most people would say automatically it's somebody like Javon Solomon. Well, here's the deal. Javon Solomon is going to be a heavy special teams player, get tons of reps at special teams. So how do you take a guy that's getting 25, 30 plays on teams a game and you move him? Personally, if Michael Hoyt, to me, was not, facing the suspension of the PED suspension, I think that the front office and Brandon Beane would probably be trying to trade A.J. Epinesa at some point. And maybe they try to trade Epinesa when Hoyt comes back. I don't know. But this 6-game deal is another kind of a tryout thing for Epinesa, I believe. If you can trade him, you drop salary cap space. You create salary cap space. You take money off the salary cap. And then you create room for Michael Hoyt. So that'll be something interesting as well to take a look at. So that's my first thing. My second camp battle that I really want to take a look at is this Hancock and Cam Lewis thing. Its safety is. And I think it's interesting that as soon as Hancock was drafted, he was labeled as that guy that could go to safety and be a slot corner. And is that what's going to happen? And I think that's the other one I really want to look at. You can also look at, Dane Jackson and how does he fit with Dorian Strong coming in the 6th round and all that stuff, because we don't think we're going to move Trey White. I think Dane's probably odd man out there. Where does Ingram fit in? So you could probably maybe take Dane Jackson, Ingram, and Strong and put them as 1B in this whole kind of secondary battle. But to me anyway, the battles, a lot of those things are going to be on defense. One is after week 8. Or when week 8 comes, how do we handle the Ogunjobi and Hoyt situation when they come back? And the other is in the secondary. Because I don't believe that the Bills thought that a guy like Dorian Strong was going to be there in the 6th round, and all of a sudden he's there, a guy that was projected as high as 2 by some in the 2nd round, definitely a 3rd-round pick. He's sitting there in the 6th round, still available. You got to take him. And now you got kind of a logjam there with Dane Jackson and the others. So I think that's another area that we need to look at. So thanks for that question. Another question coming in, and this question from Sooner Jeff, the same guy on X. Thanks, Sooner Jeff. Which head coach did you like playing for more, Marv or Wade? Okay, I hate to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. I don't like playing for him the same. I mean, they're very, very similar. They're kind of the same guy. I know Wade. To me, Wade got a bum rap. Wade got the worst. I would say probably, I don't want to say worst treatment of any head coach in the league, because there's some that get worse. But anywhere he went, there seemed to be question marks about certain things. And honestly, Wade Phillips is a tremendous head coach, tremendously good football mind, tremendously good coach for veteran players. Excuse me. Was tremendously great with veteran players, as was Marv. Marv was the same way. Things were not handled out in the public. Things were not handled out in the open. Things were handled behind closed doors. Both coaches treated you like men. And I believe that when you look at this, you know, both were very similar. They were both the same. I mean, Marv, of course, had the 4 Super Bowls that he went to, beloved, and he should be beloved. I absolutely love Marv, but I love Wade as well. And they're very, very similar. I like both coaches quite a bit. So appreciate the question. Next question comes in from David. David Costantino says, what would your dream job in the NFL be? Probably running a personnel department. I really dig the personnel side of it, player evaluation, the draft, and all those things. Like that quite a bit. Scott Blakely says, do you feel Bishop will develop enough to start next to Rapp? I believe Bishop has no choice but to develop and start next to Rapp. That is the plan. That is what they want. That is why they moved up into the second round to take a guy like Cole Bishop. So I truly believe that that Cole will be there. I like Cole, what he's about. And, I think he's going to be a very, very good football player. The thing that maybe worries me a touch about Cole Bishop is that we do seem to have some injury stuff, and it's not big stuff. It's nagging stuff, soft tissue type things. Had the injury in camp last year, preseason camp, that delayed his development. And now this year missed a couple practices, or at least was limited in mini camp this season. So, hopefully we're not looking at the situation where he's injury prone, but I think that Bishop will develop well. I think signs are showing that he's getting it and the light switch is going on. And I think he's everything that the Buffalo Bills want in a safety. So, yes, I do believe that. Ralph Wilson Sr., one of my favorites. Not the Ralph Wilson Sr., obviously, but great fan of the shows, always on here, has great comments. Does have a funny side, Ralph. I did see what you said earlier about John. I think that would be great. But who was your favorite O-line coach at any level? Really, really good question. I had a guy in college at the University of Tulsa by the name of Mark Thomas that I have a ton of respect for. Mark taught me the things I needed to learn to be good at the position, or at least to get me to the next level. I mean, a lot of us that play that spot in college and then move on to the pros. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are big. There's a lot of guys that are strong and a lot of guys that are fast. You got to learn how to play the game. You got to learn how to be a pro. Mark taught me all those things about how to play the game, as far as, studying film and being physical and those types of things. But as far as a professional coach, I'd have to say it was a guy by the name of Tom Bresnahan. And Bresnahan was Marv Levy's offensive line coach. Very, very smart man, recently passed away. And the thing I loved about Tom was, besides the fact that he treated you like a man, was that even then, Tom had some of the at least knowledge and had the intuition that all linemen were not the same. And he would coach different things to different players. Prime example, I was on the practice squad, and I used my hands a certain way in pass pro, and he wanted to change that. He wanted me to do it another way. So he showed me how he wanted me to do it, and I sold out on that idea because the guy was my coach, and I wanted to do those things, and didn't win a lick of pass pro. Didn't win one rep of one-on-one pass pro for about 2 weeks. So it was a Wednesday. of the next week, we're getting ready to start practice for the next upcoming game, and he pulls me aside before practice. Says, "Hey," he says, "remember all that stuff I told you I wanted to do on your punch?" I was like, "Yeah, coach, I got you." He goes, "Forget everything I told you and just go back to doing it the way you were doing it." So immediately I went back to the way I was doing it, and I started winning one-on-one pass pro reps again. So I did love that about Tom. He pulled me aside when I was playing right tackle, showed me a different technique than other tackles were doing, more of a vertical set type deal that a guy by the name of Gary Zimmerman was doing in Denver, as opposed to what we used to do in the old days. It's called drive catch now. It used to be called kick slide. Got me out of the kick slide stuff into more of a vertical pass set when I was playing right tackle, and it really, really helped me out. That was something nobody else – he didn't teach that to anybody else. He taught it to me. So I appreciated Tom for his ability to see what a player had and coach them according to it. And then also, treat us like men. So anyway, thoughts to his family, prayers out to Tom. Great dude. And unfortunately, he is no longer with us. So again, this is the Big O Show on the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network. It's July 2nd. Greatest holiday we celebrate in the country besides the birth of Jesus would be July 4th. I absolutely love July 4th. One of my all-time favorite holidays for what it stands for, what it means. My two favorites always being July 4th, Memorial Day. Both of them are huge in my household, and both of them are holidays that I really, really enjoy. So we got a couple of minutes left on the show today. I appreciate you tuning in and watching. For all those people listening on all of our podcasting platforms, thanks for listening. A couple more questions. Scott has another one. Scott says this: how do you compare Kelly and Allen? It was such a different game back then. Hard for me in the debate, as I loved Kelly back in the day. His linebacker mentality similar to Allen, actually. And you're 100% correct. Both players are very, very similar. Now, styles of play, no. Jim was a very, very good athlete in a 4x4 box. He did have some elusiveness, but not what we see out of Josh Allen and his ability to run the football. But a couple things were very comparable, and one, I believe, is the key to both players. Both had strong arms. Josh has a big arm. Jim had a big arm. Both understood things. I think Kelly was a better pure passer than Allen. Allen's more of a thrower. I know a lot of people don't like to see that or hear that. Jim was a very anticipatory thrower, where Josh likes to see things before he gets rid of the ball, and then use that big arm to squeeze it into tight windows and those types of things. But the aspect that both players have that makes them great, okay, is this. Both quarterbacks are tough quarterbacks. Jim Kelly's the toughest player I've ever played with, hands down. I mean, I've seen him take some hellacious hits because he holds onto the ball to the last second before he gets rid of it, gets back up, and's in the huddle. Jim's toughness is what was the key component of his leadership, and tons of respect to him for that. Josh, similarly, is a very tough quarterback. Had the broken hand this year, plays through things that we don't even know about. So in that aspect, I think the biggest thing that drives their success, okay, besides understanding position, is that toughness. Very, very tough-minded football players, and I appreciate that question. All right, last question here on the show. I will give it to Mr. Fina because I like John. He says, Jerry, do you think the line between cut and keep at D-line and safety is far blurrier this year than in years past? Yes, John, I think it's completely blurrier. Before, we wrote a lot of up until this year, we wrote our starters in ink probably May, maybe the start of June. Coach Speak can say what it wants, but honestly, we knew who was starting. Very, very, very few battles. This year, we've got a ton of people at the D-line spot, a ton of people in the safety room. It's going to be tougher. I mean, last year's starter in DeMar Hamlin is a bubble player by many, and by me. That does not mean that DeMar Hamlin can't play. I think Hamlin will always be that guy that they try to draft over, that they try to bring free agents in to play over. But at the end of the day, he gets the job done, his reliability, and he comes out on top. We'll see if that happens again this year. Obviously, D-line, we talked about a lot of that earlier with what's going on at week 8 when these guys come back from suspension. But yes, I think that those two positions definitely will come down to the last week as far as who stays and who goes. So anyway, we appreciate your time. We appreciate you tuning into the Big O Show here on the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network, powered by Believe. Wednesday night, 8 Eastern, 7 Central, right here on YouTube. Next morning, this show hits on all major podcasting platforms. We'll be back with another Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network show. Myself, Joe Miller, if he's not at one of his 962 graduation parties this weekend, and John Fina will be here Sunday night. And then I hear a rumor, and we will see what happens. But there is a rumor out there that, according to Joseph Miller III, off tackle with John Fina returns this Monday night. So John Fina will be back on the airwaves here on the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network, powered by Believe, with his great show, a deep dive and look into the offensive line of the Bills, as well as other things. So look for that as well next week. The Off Tackle Show coming back on Monday night. So again, thanks for joining. Thanks for listening. As always, folks, hit the like, hit the subscribe, review the show, tell your friends. We appreciate you as always. Thank you very, very much. Have a great, safe 4th of July. Show up to any July 5th events with all 10 fingers, please. We don't need anybody showing up without all their fingers. And have a good time celebrating the birthday of the United States of America. As always, folks, we appreciate you. Much love. Go Bills.
I'm still the same.